Hey guys! I had this on my list of videos to make for the 49 days and it got pushed back because I didn't know how interesting it would be, but I kind of wanted to do it to explain the situation that those of you who are friends with me on Facebook were introduced to last night, and that's my transportation issue after work. You see, I live in the outer lying areas of Cincinnati, and the bus system here sucks. Though Cincinnati is a big city and we have a public transportation system, which is a good thing in and of itself, it doesn't run very late. The buses from my work stop running at 6:30, I believe. Our public transportation system also has a special service for people with disabilities that will come to your house and pick you up and take you wherever you need to go, even when the buses aren't necessarily running. However, though I have a disability and it is documented by the medical community, I am not eligible for this service because I don't have a physical disability. Strata from Real Pagan pointed out that, my eyes are a part of my physical form, therefore visual impairment is a physical disability, and I completely agree with it. However, the public transportation authority here does not agree with that. I would think that if my disability impacts my ability to drive, that would make me eligible for this service, but apparently I'm wrong. So basically this video is just going to take you through an average day with me. In theory, I'm not going to take you around because I don't want to show you guys where I live, and explain how it's much harder for me than simply getting on a bus and going somewhere. Because everyone's like, oh, she just can't drive, she just takes a bus wherever. But in addition to the restrictions with the public transportation in this area that I just went over, it's so much harder than that, and very few people will realize this unless you have a visual impairment. So basically I wake up in the morning and I get online because our public transportation around here has worked with Google Maps, a lot of them are now, and they will show you your route, which is awesome, and I don't know how I ever lived without this, or Google Street View, but we're gonna get to that in a minute. I get up and I look up my route, and it'll tell me walking directions to the bus stop, it'll give me an estimate of how long it's gonna take me to get there, to that bus stop, then tell me when the bus is gonna get there, roughly where the bus stop is, which is still difficult, and then when I'm gonna get to where I'm going and walking directions to my final destination from that final bus stop. And this is great, but there are still issues when I go out and try to do this. I walk out of my door and I already have to take into account how far I'm walking, if the neighborhood is safe, and all of those things that people normally have to worry about, but I have to worry about them more because I can't judge what people want when they're coming up to me. People who are fully sighted can look at someone more easily than I can and say, he looks menacing. He looks like he just wants to know what time it is. Whenever someone walks up to me in the dark, or even just when I'm out on the street by myself, I freak out. I'm paranoid because I can't see what they have in their hand. I can't see what the look on their face is. I can't judge them at all. And it's terrifying. So I already have to take that into account. Then I have to take into account if there are crosswalks and street signs. Because if I'm following Google's directions, I have to have street signs. It tells me the street names and roughly how far it is to get to that street, but I can't have it on my phone because if it's sunny, I can't see my phone. I can't use my phone to be like, oh, you need to turn now, even though they have walking directions, unless it's really cloudy outside or nighttime. And I rarely walk outside at nighttime because I'm so paranoid. And I don't live in a good part of town right now. Anyway, so if there happen to be street signs, which I see with my handy dandy telescope, which is 10x, it's quite large, but there's a very small field, so it's kind of difficult to use when you're out and about, and it draws attention to the fact that you're visually impaired, making you a target for people who aren't really the nicest people in the world. Although it does also draw attention to the fact that you might need help for the people that are nice. My mom wanted me to use a cane, even though I don't need it for mobility issues. It's a good way for people to also see that you need help and things like that. But again, it does make you a target. So I find my street signs and I get where I'm going. If there are crosswalks, which again, don't know how I lived without Google Street View, because when we were looking for an apartment, there were so many apartments that were near a bus line, but there weren't crosswalks to get to the bus stops, and I refused to put my life at risk trying to cross a street without a crosswalk. It's insanity. Or they were moderately close to a bus stop, but the sidewalks weren't taken care of by the city, or there weren't sidewalks. And if the sidewalks aren't taken care of by the city in the winter, which we haven't had a lot of this year, so it hasn't been an issue, private citizens don't shovel their sidewalks. They shovel their driveway so they can get out, but not the sidewalk in front of their house. So if it's in a little suburban area and none of the residents there care about the pedestrians going in front of their house, you're screwed. You're gonna slip all over ice and sprain your ankle like I've done a few times in the winter trying to get to a bus stop because the private citizens don't care about the pedestrians. So let's say I had sidewalks and street signs and I managed to get to my bus stop and I found which side of the street it was supposed to be on and everything like that. Is there shade at that bus stop? If there's not, I'm not going to be able to see anything on very sunny days. Is the bus going to be coming straight out of the sun at sunset or sunrise? Because I won't be able to see the number then. And I bust out my handy dandy telescope again to see the number when it's coming toward me. But sometimes that's not fast enough, and sometimes the numbers are dimmer than on other buses and they're really hard to see. So sometimes I miss my bus because I can't see the number and it drives right past me and it was the right one. Is it a busy stop? Because if it is, they're more likely to drive past you if there are several buses coming to that stop. If it's only a stop for one route, they'll stop automatically when they see you. But if there are 4 buses coming to that bus stop and I don't seem to be ready for that bus, it'll assume that I'm waiting for a different one and go right past me, even if I couldn't see the number. So that's fun too, but we'll assume that I managed to get on that bus. Then I go through the stress of getting to my bus stop if it's not a route that I'm used to. And though this is sometimes stressful for other people, I can't see outside of the bus at nighttime or in the morning before the sun rises because the lights inside of the bus are on, which creates a glare on the windows, and I can't see out into the dark. And I don't understand why I do. I understand why they do it, so people can read, so people can see what they're doing on the bus. But how do you see outside the bus? It makes no sense. So I fully have to rely on the driver to tell me when we've reached my stop in those conditions. Or I have to absolutely know the bus route for that time of day. On some buses, though it is a policy for the Public Transportation Authority here, they will announce the stops as they approach them. It'll be like approaching Vine and 4th or whatever. But a lot of bus drivers don't do that. And it's ridiculous. I've called several times to complain about certain drivers because they will not announce stops. And it's impossible for me to find my stop if they aren't announcing them most of the time. Now I have handy dandy GPS on my phone so I can track where we're going on the bus, which is still hard because all you can really do is type in driving directions and have it navigate for you, and then it'll be pissed every time that the bus takes a different turn. It'll be like rerouting, and it takes forever for it to reroute. So it's still a difficult process, but it helps me get a general idea of where the bus is in relation to where I'm going. So that's stressful too, because you can ask the driver to tell you when your stop's coming up, but the drivers around here are mainly jerks, and they'll be like, I have so many things to do as a bus driver, I can't do that. And I've called to report several of them for that as well, because it's meant me missing my stop and having to ride the entire route over again to try to get it the second time. Often I miss it the second time and I just have to give up on where I'm going and go home. It's awesome. It's awesome. So yeah, that's stressful because it's not only the stress of missing your stop, it's the stress of getting off at the wrong stop, because that might suck for someone who's fully sighted. But someone who's fully sighted can get on their phone, even if it's the middle of the day, and get GPS directions to the next bus stop and catch a different bus. I can't do that during the middle of the day unless I find somewhere to go inside to look at my phone. Also, I might get off at a horrible area, and that's terrifying. It's easier for a fully sighted person to navigate their way around the city than it is for me. I could take a cab, that's true, but making just above minimum wage doesn't really afford me a lot of cab trips to work and from work. That's going to be pretty much all of my earnings. Plus, I still have the paranoid idea on the cab. I have my pepper spray out and my soon-to-be personal safety app, which is awesome. I'm so excited about it. It really does make me feel so much safer, because pepper spray makes me feel a little safer, but it's still kind of terrifying to me. So yeah, that's a day of transportation for a visually impaired person. And I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.